forget, they are dealing with terrorism and tyranny. That's what they're dealing with.
So, Karine Jean-Pierre gave a press conference today during which she mispronounced a word in a very funny way. And so I thought I'd make my own little video about it because that's just the kind of person that I am. So, what exactly is tyranny? Let's take a look. Merriam-Webster.com. Tyranny, in my mind, is simply an abusive dictatorship. That's the definition that I have in mind. Merriam-Webster says oppressive power, which is also, of course, a legitimate definition. A government in which power is vested in a single ruler. But to my point, and in case you don't believe me, let's listen to how Merriam-Webster tells us to say the word.
Tyranny.
There you go. Do you hear that, Karine Jean-Pierre? If she's listening to this, she might be. So synonyms: absolutism, Caesarism, autocracy. But by its very nature, tyranny is a pretty charged word, and Karine Jean-Pierre used it in reference to Hamas, that Israel is standing against tyranny, and she said tyranny. But you also heard similar language in the Iraq situation, frankly. When you hear George W. Bush, we talked about tyranny. And it's also a word that you read in the founding documents, that we talked about George III as being a tyrant, and we talked about tyranny from Great Britain prior to the revolution. So there is something in our DNA where we like to talk about tyranny, and hopefully we pronounce it correctly. But finally, talking about the word's origins, notice that the Y makes a kind of I sound, like a short I vowel sound, and then there's another Y at the end. And that is a pattern you see in words that derive from Greek. Ancient Greece, they had a lot of our words pertaining to government come from Greek. And if you look at the etymology according to Merriam-Webster, they say Middle English from Middle French from Medieval Latin, from Latin, tyrannus, tyrant. And I was surprised at that, but I did a little more research, and it does, in fact, come from ancient Greece. And then it was, I suppose, transmitted to, the Roman Empire in Latin. Obviously, there's a lot of cross-pollination between Latin and Greek. So, Karine Jean-Pierre gave a press conference today during which she mispronounced a word in a very funny way. And so I thought I'd make my own little video about it because that's just the kind of person that I am. So let's take a listen.
Go ahead, in the back. Thanks, Karine. Some Democrats, particularly in and around the squad, have openly disagreed with the president for being too supportive of Israel. There's also been some grassroots groups that back the president and are now indicating that this could be a deal breaker for them. Is the president worried that this will continue to be a wedge issue within the party, and why can't he get his fellow Democrats on the same page on this issue? So look, in our party, there's going to be various range of agreements and disagreements, and that's the way it is, right? And in particular in the Democratic Party. The president's going to continue to be clear about this. You heard it at the top when Jake Sullivan was giving an update on the Middle East, where the president stands. The president has been very clear. And when it comes to Israel and what we saw on October 7th, Israel has the right to defend itself. They have the right to defend itself. And so we're going to support Israel in doing that. Obviously, there is the rule of law, right, that Jake talked about, that we believe that should be followed. And we're going to continue to be steadfast in what we believe and how we see this moving forward, and making sure, we just talked about the supplemental, the national security supplemental, and making sure Israel has what it needs, Ukraine has what it needs. Let's not forget, they are dealing with terrorism and tyranny. That's what they're dealing with. They're dealing with an organization like Hamas, who is a terrorist organization, and tyranny. That's what they're dealing with, and making sure, we just talked about the supplemental, the national security supplemental, and making sure Israel has what it needs, Ukraine has what it needs. Let's not forget, they are dealing with terrorism and tyranny. They're dealing with an organization like Hamas, who is a terrorist organization that they would want to see in October 7th.
Okay, so let's pause the video. We're dealing with tyranny, guys, so we really need to fight back against tyranny, don't you know? Very funny, ridiculous. And what can you say? On the other hand, I thought the question was not really, I don't agree with the premise of the question. Like, what is Biden supposed to do if not everybody agrees with him about the Israel Gaza issue? It's like, and that's, I believe the reporter referred to the squad, and not everyone's on the same page in the Democrat Party on this issue. I mean, not everyone in the Republican Party is on the same page on Ukraine. So you can't just, like, even if you're president, you can't demand a uniformity of opinion on any given issue. And contrary to the premise of the question, I don't think that even left-wing Democrats, they don't like literally support Hamas. They're just kind of have like a more nuanced take on this matter. So one more thing, I want to check out the Wikipedia page of Karine Jean-Pierre. Born in 1974, so looks pretty good for her age. I got to give her that. But what I'm really looking for is the education. The daughter of Haitian immigrants, and she was born in France. Interesting. Let's see, blah, 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 Democrat Convention, and earned a Master of Public Affairs from Columbia University in 2003. So that's like a elite, almost Ivy League school, and she doesn't know how to pronounce tyranny. I used to teach high school, and my students had really a lot of trouble with the word tyranny, and my heart goes out to them. Even when I tried to explain to them that it's not pronounced tyranny, they still wouldn't believe me. And so, hopefully one day they'll learn and they won't fall down the same path as our White House press secretary. My name is Michael McCara. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.